Welcome to Holdback Rack Podcast. My name is Jessica Hare. I operate Hare Hollow Farm, and we breed boas, balls, and select colubrids.
Hi, I'm Jana King. I operate ASM Royal Tails, and I breed high-end ball pythons.
We want to share our journey navigating herpetoculture and are dedicated to promoting biohazard safety for all species. And we would love you to answer the question, what's in your holdback rack? Welcome to episode 27.
27? That can't be right. That's crazy.
That's how old I was when I realized I was a washed up piece of shit.
27? Oh, man.
I felt like that was the time in grad school. I knew for sure. It's all downhill from there.
All downhill from there?
This is a podcast about not existential quarter life crises.
Yes.
It's about reptiles and mostly snakes.
It's also not about Bridgerton.
So we have a lot of new people joining us. Welcome.
Hi.
I'm not sure why you're here. You've stumbled into the front door, but you've made it. If you're new and you make it to the end of the episode and you like the episode, please leave us a 5-star review and we will shout you out at the beginning of the next week's episode. Just shoot me a screenshot to the Holdback Rack on Instagram. That's our fun promise, and the 5-star review really helps us out with the algorithm. Thank you so much. You're all beautiful. We love you. Do we love them, Jana?
I haven't decided yet.
Okay.
Ask me next week.
Pending. We'll see how many we get.
Pending love. Love pending.
And then generally, because there's a lot of new listeners, we're always on the lookout for guests that have like new experiences with diseases, especially in animals we don't keep. Like, we can't really explain to you about Adenovirus and bearded dragons because we don't have bearded dragons and we never dealt with Adenovirus. So if anybody has a situation, and it can't be one where you're like, I speculated I had a problem because whatever, if you haven't also tested, because that's how you would have like the ability to have the full understanding of your situation. So people who have a experience testing, bad experiences, good experiences, shoot me a message if you would like to be considered to come on. That's all, especially for new people. I've been looking for like a leopard gecko with crypto story person that will respond for ages, because they have all the same problems, and there's lots of people who've like run into it, but they've all like disappeared into the woodwork once they like post about it because they're traumatized. In general, the podcast is not family friendly and not really appropriate for a polite company ever. That means cursing, maybe vibrator talk. I'm not sure. It could get crazy. Sometimes it's actually totally normal and good information, but not always. And it's also our opinion and not a replacement for medical advice from a vet or doctor. If you have hemorrhoids and they're really big, you need to go to a medical professional. There's no treatment options that we can provide for you here. Please.
The top 5 reptile scams that are stealing your money.
Your hard-earned cash. There have been an insane number of scam reports in the last week, and I was like, this is finally a topic. It's always constant, but this week in particular, all over Instagram, 10 of them a day. Like this one, this one, this one. And I was like, okay, it's time. Let's do it. So here we are. I made the list. Jana looked at the list. Do you agree with my list of scams?
I do agree with your list of scams.
There are more kinds of scams, but these are like the broad categories that I felt like fit. One scam that's not on here is just selling hets that aren't hets and pretending they are. Like the scam with the black ball and the red ball. Remember that scam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like the most famous scam of all time in ball pythons. And if people don't know about that, a dude in Poland painted with kids' paint an albino ball python with red paint and a normal ball python with black paint, and said that the bright red snake was double visual for albino and black ball, the like black mutation, and so it made a red snake. And so people paid for double hets, normals, big money, huge money.
They were just het albinos.
They weren't even het albinos. They were fully normal. Like, he could have like strung everyone along longer if he had like sent out ones that were het albinos. He didn't even bother to do that. He sent them normals. Look it up. There's lots of old YouTube videos about it. I think it came out like last year. It's was something. So this isn't, there is no mention here of like specifically morph scams, which I guess I should have had another category, but most people are pretty good.
You can't tell, and most people are pretty good. Yeah. And if you do your research on who you're buying from and see the parent snakes, you're usually going to be fine. That's not really something you can like watch out for someone being sneaky like that until we have further universalized genetic testing. Affordable.
Very soon we'll either have Dr. Seidel on. She was just on somebody else's podcast, so like I keep like almost thinking about messaging her, then she's like already on someone's podcast. But you know, maybe whenever Dr. Seidel like gets to like the next cohort of genes, we'll have her on to talk about the ball python testing project. But for now, number 1,
foreign scammers.
Holy fuck!
Dun dun dun.
I was gonna title this African scammers, but there was a time pre-Ukraine war when Ukraine wasn't busy that they were doing this also. So it's not African scammers only that do this, that are like outside of the US. There's also like a pretty good contingent that was Eastern Europe. They're all really busy right now, so we haven't had a problem with Eastern European scammers. But in general, those are the 2 places. West Africa, Cameroon area, Congo sometimes, and Eastern Europe. But it could technically be from anywhere outside the country because the internet makes weird things happen. India even sometimes too.
Facebook, Instagram, fauna classifieds are where they usually post. They can't make a morph market profile, but they can make fake Instagram that mirrors a morph market account. Yeah. So like somebody that is legit on morph market, they pretend to be them on Instagram. There
was an instance posted this week on the morph market community of someone getting messages from an Instagram account where the name didn't match the business name, like the name of the person. And then the person called them out on it, and then they quickly switched their name to what like the mimicked person's name was.
Right.
Yeah. Even if the morph market account exists, you have to like double check it's the right. It's like the matching Instagram on that morph market like linked to that account.
Right.
It's hard, but here's some steps to determine if who you're speaking to is a scammer. On Facebook, they'll steal pictures from a person from a Western country, and they steal their pictures. They'll steal their profile picture. They'll steal their family picture. They'll steal maybe their pictures of snakes or other people's pictures of snakes, and they will smash them together with a new name potentially. And a lot of times they'll do it on their own Facebook account and delete like the location of where they live, and they'll pick somewhere dumb as their like place of work, school they went to, and place they were born. It'll be like places you could Google, like that are very generic big places. Like they work at a zoo. They were born in Washington, D.C. and they went to school at Harvard.
Just well-known.
Yeah.
Facts.
And sometimes it's just something like you could tell they like Googled like the university in a particular city. And so they tried to put it in a city, but somehow this person works at a major university, lives in the most expensive part of town. You know, it's like nobody's life is that perfect. Everyone has weird, complicated, like they were born in Montana and they moved to San Francisco, went to school there, dropped out of art school, got pregnant, and now they're in Las Vegas as a stripper. I don't know. It's like more complicated than less Googled looking. And that's hard to explain. But once you start seeing them, you're like, oh my God.
Once you've seen one or two, you'll know exactly what she's talking about. You'll be able to pick it out.
It just looks like they faked all the locations of their life to just somewhere in the U.S. that they Googled.
The number one tell for me is that you can tell that English is their second language. And that's not knocking anybody that speaks more than one language. Good for you. That's amazing. It's just someone that isn't super familiar with the English language. They use odd terminology, or they put sentences together backwards or in an odd way. That's not saying that somebody that English isn't their first language can't be a legitimate ball python seller, but that's just one of the things, if you see that you should look for other things on this list to see if there's any other red flags.
Yeah. And yeah, we're not trying to be, I don't know, xenophobic or something. If there's all this other information and they're claiming to be from a native born speaker from the US, or if you're in England from England, or if you're in Australia from Australia, and they don't know basic geography of the place they claim to live or whatever, that's all good evidence. The accounts can be new, or like I said before, like they've westernize their current account. If the account isn't 2 days old or 3 days old, they will often leave metadata in their account from Cameroon or whatever. Like that they like checked in at Cameroon restaurant 5 years ago. Have you seen that before?
Mm-mm.
So it'll be like Debbie's.
Usually I hit other red flags before I get this in depth, and I'm just like, I'm good.
I found somebody sent me one that was really good. The person had like a real looking person with an older account with a job and school and place of birth that were like in a region that kind of made sense. Like, I don't know, whatever. You know, you go back in time and they've pretended they visited a different city in the US every week for like a month, just random landmarks. And then you go back in time further and they were visiting Camerooni restaurants or Camerooni bars. And you're like, okay, dude. And you were trying, but got him. Yeah, you don't need to see that. Any of the other signs should stop you. But if you do see that, you know.
There was one really good one in a local for sale group, like Reptile for sale group here, that was trying to sell like a pied. And so I had messaged them. Like I had checked out their account. It looked legit. Like they had a nice little family on there, some family pictures.
A lot of families. Kids.
Not a new account. And so I messaged them, and at first, you know, like simple interactions like how much does it cost? And they give you that, so you can't really tell grammar or anything. And so we got all the way down. I was like, oh, that checks out, that checks out, that checks out. And then you get down to like, I'm like, hey, can you meet me in Tacoma? And they're like, oh, I've got a lot of people, I need you to put a deposit. And then they start getting like frantic, and then they start using the wrong grammar and things. Well, I have cash and I'm willing to meet you. Would you like to meet me? And then they're all of a sudden, oh, well, I'm not in the state. And so I had reported it, and one of the admins had messaged me back, and they're like, dang, this one's a good one. It took me a while because they messaged them as well just to see if I was right, because like I said, their profile looked legit.
Sometimes they steal someone's profile and like hack it.
Oh, for sure. They had to have.
Yeah.
And because he was like, I'd really get him talking to figure out that it was a scammer. And so it's like sometimes they can have all the right things, but you can just tell in the conversation that something's off.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they list their like store pages with really dumb names, like Sweet Ball Python Pets for rehoming, Loving Pet for loving homes, or Ball Pythons for sale.
Oh, yeah, it's either super generic or super like saccharine and obnoxious. Yeah, I guess there are saccharine names, but they're not set up like that. They don't have the word for rehoming in the title of their business.
Right.
If they're going to have a saccharine name, it's going to be like Cupcake Snakes or whatever. Like that's their business name.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. They're not putting rehoming in it ever. No ball python person wakes up in the morning, I need to rehome this. Maybe on Craigslist.
Never.
If they're literally trying to get around the like pet rehoming issue. So, and they're coming off from scamming dog and cat people. There are dog and cat Cameroon scammer pages, just like there are FBI inquiry scammer pages. So that's why they're still using stupid dog and cat language that makes no sense with reptiles, like potty trained, super friendly and loving. Doesn't scratch the furniture. Like they do not they just literally copy and pasted their like scam ads and replaced kitten with ball python and maybe got the picture of the right species, maybe. So any of that sort of language that is not normal for the industry should be a red flag.
If they don't know what morph it is. So here they are selling snakes and ball pythons, yet they don't know the terminology. They don't know what they're selling, and they're trying to sell it for 25% of what market value is. Those are both red flags.
Yeah, like somebody was selling the Stormtrooper morph, the entire morph of Stormtrooper for $200. And it wasn't even the picture of the single animal known as the Stormtrooper. It was Bumblebee or something, and $200.
There was somebody on, I think, World of Ball Pythons today that posted they were trying to buy this snake, and the person didn't know what morph it was, and it was a pastel freeway. And my immediate instinct was to go and comment, that's a scammer. Because he was like, I really want to buy it, it's a great price, but he doesn't know the morph. And I'm like, no person out there is in possession of a pastel freeway that doesn't know it's a pastel freeway, because that's like a $1,000 to $2,000 snake, depending on gender
Yeah. Somebody could be in possession of a
snake.
$50 snake and not know what it is.
And not know.
Because they bought
Correct.
it from
But
fancy
one of those,
section.
I consider that a higher end ball python.
Yeah.
And someone that has they're not just going to like stumble into a high end one and now they're rehoming it to a pet home. That doesn't happen. And so if you're finding, you know, a pastel freeway for $250, run away.
The price is very important. Also, like maybe that's like the first thing I should have put on here is like, if the price is too good to be true, it is. Sometimes the price is like really good because like the seller is under pressure and they need to sell. Then meet them in person. Do not assume that they can ship it to you because most of those too good to be true prices are scammers. They ain't shipping you shit except for sadness.
Or they're going to ship you a box of rocks. They will require no guarantee payments. I don't understand what that means.
Like no cashback guaranteed like goods and services on PayPal or...
Oh, I mean like you have no reassurance.
Right.
That's a hard one for me because the PayPal kind of effed with that. And so now people are doing like Cash Apps and Venmo and what's the other one? The
Zelle.
Straight from your bank account one. Zelle. So that kind of all feels sketch to me, but that's how the industry is moving because of PayPal's dance against animal sales. And so we're trying to find a new normal. And so that's not necessarily for me. If there was no other red flags.
Right. That wouldn't be your only one because I don't accept PayPal anymore either. Fuck that shit. If you go through a bunch of sketchy shit and then you get to, I only accept Cash App. I don't know how you got past all the sweet potty trained doesn't scratch your furniture ball pythons. But when you hit that should be like your, okay, they're not letting me pay with PayPal goods and services.
Especially if it's a local sale.
Yeah.
Or supposed to be a local sale.
Right.
There should never be any reason to send money when you're not standing there physically holding the snake. So I've done that. I mean, like I've showed up and just done electronic money.
Yeah.
While holding the snake in my hand. But if they want you to pay before meeting you, then don't do it, Johnny.
Often, after sending the payment, they will require second and third and maybe fourth payments. A vet certificate fee, a shipping crate fee, like it requires some additional crate. They make up extra fees to see if they can keep getting you. So they've gotten people like for the cost of the snake and the cost of made up fees because you are not seeing the red flags the whole time and you're a whale and they caught you. And so if you get random additional fees, that's a bad sign. You're not getting any of that back. So stop sending money if they're asking for more money. Nobody negotiates a deal and has a ship price and then is like, just kidding, I need to take it to the vet real quick for $100 for this vet certificate. This doesn't happen
ever.
Yeah,
there's never any reason for a reputable breeder that's selling ball pythons to change the price after you've agreed and paid. There's zero
or any
zero
snakes
reason
or lizards or dogs.
They would never do that. Although if you hit that point, I'm very sorry for you. Often they will send a fake tracking number to a fake shipping number, and then when your purchase doesn't arrive, they'll block you.
I meant shipping account. Messed that up.
Oops.
Oh well. Yeah, so there are like spoof websites that have been made by scammers for scammers to look like a shipping company.
Scammers for scammers.
I know, it's just such a democratic group of friends. So it looks like a shipping company. Remember, legally, 99.99% of snakes can only be shipped by FedEx. Only very few legacy breeders that have had UPS accounts for a long time ship snakes to UPS. There are some. Nothing else is legal. Not shipping dot is good, or like, you know, like the most generic sounding shipping to you fast .org .net. That's not real. The spoof sites aren't real. The tracking number doesn't do anything. They paid somebody 50 cents for like a fake tracking number to make you think that a package was en route like for one more day or something before you blocked. What they'll do is not receive your animal because of shipping. They never had an animal to begin with. Shipping is fake. And when you go like, hey, it didn't arrive, they block you. At that point, you can, if you used a credit card to pay your Venmo, you can do a chargeback on your credit card, but that doesn't always go through because you weren't supposed to do that to begin with.
Right.
But sometimes it does. Don't buy for those people. They don't deserve your money. You're not getting anything. It happens 6 times a week. I swear to God. Just that kind of scam. And then gets posted to Facebook. So how many people get scammed and don't post because they're embarrassed?
Probably more.
Probably
double that.
And these people, these kind of scams are in not just animal hobbies, every hobby. Electronics, shoes, anything that anybody sends somebody money about on the internet, there's a scam for that in this way. To pretend they're a private party doing a private sale. Especially like with like the chip shortage, like processors for computers, and I wouldn't buy anything anymore on the internet from like a private party. It's just not worth it.
Right. Number 2 is domestic scammers.
Ooh, why did I split them apart? I was trying to like distinguish between someone who is physically outside of the country and not even in the hobby, and so you're like looking for non-hobby features in their language,
I feel
and
like they are different.
And then someone who like is either in the hobby or like knows
hobby adjacent.
Yes, and so they like know enough about it. You're getting tricked by someone who's a little bit more is very nuanced with like the language.
They have the right grammar because they do speak English. They're using some of the right lingo. They might know morphs. They might know what the higher end morphs like that are more desirable. Like
it's very
like
dangerous.
Tides or clowns, or like they know what's flashy.
And they may have even bought and sold snakes or lizards or whatever before, right. So they know exactly the whole process.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, these are the hardest
like half
ones.
Their sales are real and half their sales are fake.
Yeah. And they get...
There's one of those in every reptile group, too.
Yeah, they get famous in their whatever social media platform they're using for being a scammer. And then they, like, switch names weird and maybe move to the next trailer down.
Right.
Like, then a couple counties over. And maybe they, like, start doing it out of their boyfriend's Facebook account. And there are people in the FBI groups who have been tracked from, like, 3 or 4 accounts. And they'll sometimes, like, sprinkle in real transactions. So, like...
No, they do. That's what
cover
like
their bases. Yeah,
half are fake.
It is the most insidious trailer trash shit I have ever seen.
I've dealt with them, and they can hold up the snake that they've gotten from them, and show the screenshots of their transaction. I gotta say, like 50% of their transactions are real.
It's like
they're like flipping snakes.
Yeah,
and then the other 50%, like they never show up, but they took your money.
Right, because at that point they just needed $800 to make it to the next trailer or whatever.
Right.
To like keep the fraud train going. So like they're gonna like burn the bridge in the account wherever they are.
Yeah, it's weird. Interesting choices.
This one's hard. You have to just use your best judgment, but like a history of posts isn't necessarily the best indicator. You have to go look for like, are they a real person on Morph Market? Have they had the same Facebook account for a long time? Is there a Facebook account name or real name? None of that's really that great. Tips.
Usually the biggest flag for me is if they're acting odd. I mean, so they might know the lingo, they might speak English correctly, they might have pictures of the snake, but if you ask for like any kind of verification, they get angry with you, they get snippy with you. So like if you're like, could you write my name on a piece of paper and can you take a picture of it? Any real seller will roll their eyes, but they will do it.
Right. I still don't think anybody should do it.
But somebody who's a scammer, I think it's dumb, but if you're feeling like uncomfortable, then that's something that you would do. If it's the one you're trying to buy from
right, but did you see that guy who was trying to photoshopped in poorly like a picture with their name on it?
Did they really?
Yes.
I have not seen that.
It's
that's
really
hilarious.
Funny. But I'm saying that's okay. I just feel like if you're that sketched out, I would just limit your like private party transactions to ones you can drive to. And then you can pick it up in person, in my opinion, instead of the picture and the handwritten. There's enough pictures of snakes with handwritten stuff on it that you can delete the date and the name and like Photoshop it in and have a picture with a piece of paper with a name on it and a date on it that looks kind of good, that matches like still photos of a snake. Because all those pictures are floating around on Google that people have already sent to each other. So to me, it's just not, it's okay. But yes, real breeders will do it and roll their eyes. But the best one is like, you're going to FaceTime with the snake. Like if you want a real verification that that snake is in their possession, that's what I would ask for. If I was truly like desperate for a snake from a private party transaction and I wanted to be sure they had it.
I just avoid that because also there's like disease testing and 5 other things. But if you get to the point where you're like so sketched out that you need to FaceTime to see this animal,
right? That's what I was saying.
Like, if you go on Morph Market, you can get one from a breeder that has a YouTube, a breeder that has an Instagram, a breeder that has past sales, a breeder that's been on Morph Market for 2 or 3 years. Like,
right. The fact that people are so desperate to like lose their money is crazy. But if you want to do private party, it should be within driving distance. If you really need to do a private party transaction.
Trust me, I get it. I see the deals on Craigslist too. Like, but just really think about it first. And definitely don't send local people money online unless you're holding the snake in your hand, face to face.
I don't know. People will send me like a $20 or $30 deposit just to prove they're going to come pick it up, and that's fine. And that's money they could lose, I guess, if I was a faker. Because I don't hold snakes without deposits for local pickup.
I don't usually
take deposits. I'm just like, come get it.
Flying out the door that it's a problem because usually people are like, I want that snake. Can we meet up in the next week and get that snake?
That is also fine. But like when there is competition and I have multiple people, make them
first come, first
serve. The rule is always if there's no deposit, there's no hold. So a person could swoop from a helicopter and be like, I'm ready to buy your snake. I'm like, okay, you were first, helicopter dude. Thank you for coming. Check the FBI groups. Usually these people change names, but a lot of the people, like the guy who tortures dogs and then is still running a fucking retake business out of his house for some reason. So the Slither Inc. guy, he's all over the FBI groups and people keep buying snakes from him. So you can have a felony for animal abuse, but somehow can still have...
Is that the guy that's like houses burned like a whole bunch of times and there's like piles of dead snakes behind his house? That was a story that was circulating for a while.
I mean, that sounds like a guy.
In the industry.
I just can't believe felony animal abuse gets to have animals ever again, of any kind of animal.
They absolutely can have any kind of animal, even the ones they abused.
Fuck those people.
Yeah.
Is that not PC enough, everybody at home? Fuck them.
We did say not safe for work, so fuck them.
And then, very quickly, like the last category of domestic scammer is chargeback scams. So this is more and more common. Either they steal the credit card or they just pretend you didn't ship it. And the credit card company...
This is becoming really common. It's really effed up.
I think CD Exotics sold a ton of snakes, like multi-$1,000 transaction and had a chargeback. Even though
Is that why she's dipped out?
Not CD Exotics. CD Constrictors.
Constrictors?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened to CD Exotics. Somebody has explained to me where she went.
I don't know. I was a fan.
I know. It was fun, but she's definitely... So she hasn't posted to Instagram in 1,000 years either, or YouTube, but she has stuff on Morph Market right now. So I'm like...
Oh, she does. So she's not dead.
She's not dead, but I don't know... I'm guessing she's still breeding, but it's like older stuff. So I don't think she's getting out, but it looks like she's like reducing breeding females.
I know that when she quit posting on YouTube regularly, I messaged her and I was just like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I love your content. Are you dead? Why aren't you posting? Like, I said it, but I was funny about it, not like stalkery about it. And she was working a full-time job. Her son started going to school, and so she got a job outside the home. And I think that might have sucked up all her free time.
Did she say if she was getting out of the hobby or she was just not busy?
She didn't say. I didn't ask. I didn't feel like it was appropriate for me to her.
That's good. I'm glad she's still alive. She was fun.
Because our kids are like the same age. Her son is the same age as my middle daughter, and so we like bantered back and forth what it was like to have a kid that age, and that was the end of it. I don't know. Where are you?
Yeah, there's a bunch of random YouTubers and Instagram people who I used to watch or follow who fall off the earth one way or the other, which is fine because, you know, things come in seasons.
Such is the hobby.
Things come in seasons. And sometimes they're still in the hobby. They just don't...
off the earth.
Jana's gone.
Jessica wasn't holding on to my tail strings. Keeping me earthbound.
You don't have to still do social media, but you should at least do a little bit of something. What the fuck do I know?
Showing up for the podcast anyway.
All right, good job. Sure. Number 3.
I've been hitting the main points, like the snake's laid, the eggs are cut.
That's
You're just
fine. A
not
lot
getting
of
all
people
the
aren't
filler
doing
posts.
daily Instagram posts, and they're doing just fine in terms of sales.
Yeah.
You know?
So whatever right now. That's where I'm at with that.
Number 3.
Local dog shit flippers.
There's one bitch that I think of every time I think of this. And I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, Jana, and it's not you.
It's totally me.
No,
She's
there's
totally thinking of me.
I don't even remember. I kind of remember her name and I won't say it, but she
Oh, can you say it and then just edit it out?
No. I'll tell you later because I'm tired of editing. I already have to edit
She's
40
like, I'm already
hours
tired
of content.
Jana keeps talking out of turn. Shut up.
No, we don't plan things very well. Okay, let me tell you the MO of this person. They are on Facebook right now, either buying stuff, pretending to be a pet buyer, like a $25 male ball python in a tank who's a year and a half old. They bought it as a baby. They don't want it. And they're immediately flipping it for $50 and keeping the tank for their 4-foot tegu. There's a certain amount of flipping that's okay, where you buy a collection or a couple animals you want from someone to get a couple you want, health check them and core them. Yes, that's fine. Or you really want the rack, but it comes with a bunch of snakes you don't want in it. You buy the rack and the snakes, you check the snakes, you can resell the snakes. But she was hunting for the small dollar amount animals to turn them around and sell them, and then would beg for feeders because she couldn't feed them, beg for free mite spray, beg for equipment.
I don't know who you're talking about.
We'll talk about it later.
Interesting. We'll talk about it later.
For months, she was on the local Facebook groups. Or if somebody put something up for free, she would go get it, pretend it was going to be a pet, and then sell it. And then very recently, I don't know if Jana saw this, somebody took snakes in on supposed to be a temporary hold, and then immediately turned around and sold them out from under the people she was supposed to be fostering. They were going to pay her to feed them. They were going to pay for the food and gave her the cage and the tanks, and she immediately put them for sale.
I did not see that drama.
No.
Oh man.
I was.
Who dang.
I wasn't involved, but I was aware of we're
Adjacent.
friends with the people involved, and I was like, this is fucked. These are the scammers I'm talking about, flippers that aren't able to take care of the animals they're flipping, able to quarantine, able to test, able to verify. They don't have a permanent collection. They're just nickel and diming any transaction they can, and they can't take care of any of the animals involved. This is a very weird, special kind of person. Fuck them.
They hope that they can sell them fast enough.
Yeah, basically.
That they don't have to ever feed them or take care of them in any way.
I'm thinking of one specific person, but I've heard of, and these are the domestic scammer people that will sprinkle in fake transactions. They do this kind of thing too, where they're somebody quickly needs the.
They're oh, I'm trying to start a rescue.
Oh my god!
If you need someone to rescue your collection.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're a breeder, or they're selling them for market value or something like that.
I don't know if I ever told you this story, but I had that corn snake who was older and male, and he just needed a pet home, right? A pet in his home. So I was like, I will give this to someone for free if you can prove to me you have a cage that's big enough to hold him. I have many snakes for sale. I don't need to quibble with a $25 or $50 transaction over the snake. Show me a picture. Show me a picture of a cage he can live in, and you can have him, because he's not something you can grow up and whatever. He was already 10 or something. So somebody messaged me, and they're like, I want him to be my outreach animal. I'm like, okay. And they're I'm starting a rescue. I'm like, oh fuck, I already know where this is going. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is not a flipping snake. There's nothing about the snake that is worth anything worth money. It's $25, and she lived across the state in Washington. She needed it shipped. And I'm like, if you tell me with 100% certainty that you are not going to flip it, and it's honestly going to be an outreach snake, then I will ship it to you. Here's a quote for the exact shipping. It's not too expensive because it's the other side of the state, and it's not a big snake. It was about $50. And I was like, okay, where's your $50? She's like, I can afford that. And then I laughed.
Flag.
And I was like, oh. She's like, well, maybe when my boyfriend gets home, he can send it to you, whatever. And I was like, oh. And then she stopped talking to me for a little bit. And then I was like, I went up looking her rescue's name, and it had a bunch of shit on Morph Market for sale. Mis-ID'd boa morphs, mis-ID'd ball python morphs, normal pastels as like mystic yellow bellies, normal ass boas as het for expensive stuff. She was a fucking flipper. Fuck you. Blocked her. Gave her to some nice college girl who had a corn snake when she was a kid and just wanted another one for fun. That's the person I wanted to give it to all along. But like the trailer trash flippers that are trying to like extract $5 out of the life of an animal to buy more meth or something. Yeah, exactly. I don't fucking know what they want. If you need your grandma's social security check to come in so you can afford to buy your $50 corn snake or ship it, you're in the wrong business. Go do something else. Donate plasma. I don't know. It'd be worth more money.
You can't donate plasma. They're on meds.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Sorry.
Number 4 is link scams.
So many of these this week. Have you seen them?
I have not.
You weren't on Instagram. Like, literally every third person was like, I finally got one. Yay. Like, best dressed balls and ball brilliance and ball in hand. So many ball python people get it. So all this scam is, if someone sends you a message like, is such and such snake for sale? And they're like, yes. And they're like, cool. Is it still this amount? And they're like, yes. And they're like, can I send you this Google link? And you click on the link and it'll give you a code and you send the code and that proves that you're a real person. That's the scam. Because when you click that link, you instigate a download on your computer. And it's either ransomware that'll block you out of your computer, or it's just like, we'll start to scan your computer for info. It puts some kind of virus on your computer that might try to harvest personal information. Even keystroke viruses. There's been so many this week, like 10 people have reported they finally got a shitty person messaging them on Morph Market to try to get them to click a link.
Yeah.
Do not click no links from nobody for codes or whatever else. The only links you should be clicking from people are like, here's a link to my Instagram. It'll have an Instagram URL, or here's my Morph Market account link. It'll have a morphmarket.com URL. Those are real links. Whatever bullshit people are sending to people. I don't even know what country these people are from or if they're local, but they're not going to buy a snake from you. Do not click their link. So this is a risk to sellers, not necessarily a risk to buyers. Yeah, that was the most scams that I saw this week, was that kind. Did you click any links this week, Jana?
Well, I'd tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Oh, fuck. All right,
Number 5 is wholesalers and resellers.
And this is one of those where like, we just talked about this for an hour last week. So do we need to talk about it? You know, Bob Clark? Do we need to talk about it again?
Just like maybe for a second.
Right, because there's other people besides Bob Clark. This is like a whole category of problematic sellers that have shit condition animals for various reasons. Disease, parasites, wild caught pretending to be captive bred, and they're not, especially with like green tree pythons, wrong gender, and wrong morph. I had a friend, I don't think he wants me to say who he was, bought a snake from a flipper. It was kind of expensive, frankly, for what it was even as sold as potentially, and it was wrong gender, male, and wrong morph. So it was definitely not worth it now. And then, like, besides the disease thing, I'm like, and it was like run through a fucking collection mill, so it's an extra
risk. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a scam in that you're not gonna get a snake in the mail, or a lizard, or whatever. It is a scam in that you don't know that what you're buying is even what's advertised, or if it's any kind of quality at all, and you don't know if you're gonna get a refund. You might not. It doesn't seem to make a difference to them.
Now tell me about these boutique wholesalers.
There's a lot of species that we don't breed here, and so there are people who will buy small lots from European breeders to bring here, and small lots of imported animals to bring here. That's actually pretty common. And they're the equivalent of like a boutique breeder to like a giant breeder, of like a boutique wholesaler to a giant wholesaler.
Okay.
So they can test, they can quarantine, they have time to have like personal care and attention, parasites, and they can give you like a full analysis. Like, I bought this 2-5 group of weird colubrid from this European breeder, and it was imported on this date, and I've had them in quarantine for a month, and I checked 2 of them for crypto or whatever, and they can give you like that level of information. So yes, they're reselling, but there's a lot more like care and attention to the process. I think that is totally acceptable and good.
What just really freaks me out is like the number of people that are totally on board for the pay $500 for 10 random snakes born in Africa. The bag is unopened and shipped right to you from Africa. So they don't check the condition of these animals. They don't vet check. They, like literally you are getting, yes, they are captive hatched, and I'm putting my finger quotes right now at these hatcheries in Africa. But literally they just grab 10, shove them in a bag, and put them in a box. Grab 10, shove them in a bag, put them on top of that box. And like, so you don't have any idea if they've probably never eaten. They
haven't even shed. They're in shed because that's their post hatching shed. So they put them in there. Yeah, right out of the egg.
It just really freaks me out.
To me, like, that is terrible. It's more terrible that they don't have water for like 10 days right after they're born. Like, there's no water because they're never given water.
I don't know. Like my baby snakes are like sitting in water.
Yeah, they're in like a basically 100% humidity environment. But these baby snakes go from the egg, scooped out of the egg, right into a bag, and they're 7 days in a box, 5 days in a box. Because they
say on the website, because I checked because it skeeked me out, it's only 3 days to your door from Africa.
Yeah, there's no way, because they're definitely like in full shed, you know, like when coming out of the bag. So that means they've been in there for
the thing is like, get
5
to
to 7 days.
Hottest morph out of the wild. They hand pick through all those hatchlings. They know what they're looking for.
Right. They already picked the very coolest one.
None of those are going to be in the bags. I'm sorry.
Right. My thing is, why is it so expensive? It's $50 for each one. I can't sell a real normal for $50. Hardly.
It's weird to me.
To me, they should be like,
I don't understand.
$10. And then you could like get a big bag and like truly speculate if some of them have issues.
Might be something neato.
Right. And it's mostly been picked through. And then you have like a margin there to go sell them at a show table as like normal pets, you know? But the way it is now, there's no margin if you need to resell them. It's literally anything. What are you going to do with $50 male normals?
I was just going to say, and they're all going to be male, just so you know. They're all going to be male.
Statistically, it's the most probable situation. Yeah.
Anyway, I think we spent enough time on that. That grinds my gears.
I can definitely see how it'd be fun to someone to be like, it's an unopened bag. No one's unopened. There could be something
prior to being.
Yeah, there could be something good. I would love to look at.
I mean, I could hate on
what gets hatched in Africa. Like, look at that, and then like pick the ones that are like the expensive ones that to them are like $500 USD, and just like pick 10 $500 USDs out of a batch of 10,000, just to be like, this is my fun batch. Like, that would be fun to me, and then
that would be really
import
cool to
that
pick through thousands of snakes. Correct. That's how my African import Dinker got to the U.S.
Was like a first round pick.
Like, could just be a normal, but no, she came in a 10-pack bag from Africa as a baby. Yeah. And I had heard that story from the person I bought it from, and I was like, that doesn't sound real. That sounds totally made up. And then later I learned that that's like a real thing that this wholesaler does every year. And so I'm like, oh, that is a true story, because they said, oh, I got 10 in a bag and they were babies, and she was in there. And so, I mean, like I said, she's probably nothing. This is fun, but treat it like a normal. But I'm still the whole idea of it. I don't know. We got to move on. Let's go to the bonus round.
Bonus round. Ding, ding, ding. 5 is a good flat number, but I felt like I discovered another one while I was thinking about it. People getting out of the hobby. The riskiest of all people. Why are they risky, Jana?
This is where my Nidovirus came from.
Sorry.
They were getting out, and I got my rack from them, and I got a couple of snakes from them, and they were, ready to go, females, and they were just rethinking how they were going to do the hobby, which I'm sure that means they had a huge die-off of infrastructure based on Nido spreading to their entire collection. And you have to be so careful with those I'm getting out. Now, I
Yeah.
mean, another story that I bought someone's whole collection that was getting out because they had gotten a new job and they were working 12-hour days and they literally couldn't take care of their ball pythons, and their wife does not do snakes. So it was a local person. I have done several transactions with them. I knew past snakes had been negative for Nido, and I rolled the dice on that, but I tested everything, and it all came with its own racks, and it was all in its own quarantine. And a couple of snakes did pop positive, and but the rest were fine. And so it's like it was a gamble, but you have to make smart gambles. Somebody that's getting out and they're selling everything, and there's no Nido guarantee, there's no deposit, no return, probably stay away. I mean, it does happen. People really do get out. I mean, lots. It's a very high turnover industry.
Yeah, I've bought from 2 people getting out, and they were getting out because they were just tired of the snake's shit.
Yeah,
but I didn't buy them at
at
a high end price. I bought them at a person who's getting out, and so I expected to lose those animals to infectious diseases upon testing. Didn't expect, but I was prepared for that to be a reality. None of them had anything, but
it's literally a gamble.
Yes,
so
literally.
be prepared to have no snakes and to have been shipped Nido-filled females. They don't pay full price.
Yeah, don't pay full price.
And test them twice at least.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 times. Try 3 times.
It's a scam because one of the reasons people get out is because they're having a collapse situation. So sometimes they're getting out because they're moving or they're getting married or getting a kid. Sometimes they're getting out because this shit's hitting the fan. And it's hard to tell unless you literally test or can see obvious symptoms, which a lot of times you can't. But that's your bonus scam. The final fuck you. 6 snakes.
And if it's not obvious yet, test everything.
Yeah, but at least test old, grungy, been around the block snakes that were cum dumpsters. Because they have experienced all kinds.
All kinds.
All
They've
kinds.
had all kinds.
All the holes filled. Anyway, not safe for work.
Final thoughts. Research who you're buying from. Look up their name in the FBI posts. Check them out on Instagram, Facebook groups, Morph Market. Google them, Facebook search them, Instagram search them. Look to see if they're on Morph Market. Look at their past posts in the group that they're posting in for that snake. Just do 10 or 15 minutes of Facebook stalking, and you should see if there are any flags before you ever even message them about their sale.
Right. And if you don't see it, you can ask. You can ask in the Facebook groups. That's what the inquiry in the FBI is for. Inquiry. Or ask on the Discord, which we're even cooler than the FBI group, because we'll tell you if they test or not, or have any rumors of positives or confirm positives.
Yeah, people will say, "Oh, I bought from them and I didn't get a positive," or "I did," or
Right.
It's a much freer platform to discuss.
Right, you can't discuss that on fucking FBI.
No, they'll delete you.
The police will come
and block you. Yeah.
That's it,
Do we want to move
Jana.
on to news?
Yeah.
That's it. We did it.
Are you ready to be scammed in 2022? No, we're not ready to be scammed.
No.
See, we've learned how to
ready
not be scammed based on our 5 rules.
No scam.
All right, there's a lot of
They
news.
are getting pretty bad right now.
And it's really fucking
Bear with
complicated.
us. Yeah.
So I don't know
Complicated news week.
how much we're going to cover or not cover. But let's start with Sydney was on a live with Kayla tonight, and I watched it, and it was pretty much just a repeat of her interview, and then Kayla had time to talk about her story again. I guess
Was that when she referenced us? To
Yes.
say if you want to hear the whole story.
She didn't mention that. It will be probably saved to her profile, so if people didn't catch it today on Monday the 18th, you can probably go listen to it again.
And anybody who doesn't know, Kayla is Jube Jube
And
Snake.
friends? Or Jube Jube and
Jube
the
Jube and
Snake?
friends. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah,
Jube
I
Jube
don't
and
know.
Friends.
Jube Jube will find it. So go listen to that. The Sydney updates that exist now is that Bob Clark has been randomly messaging people that message him on Facebook about the situation that aren't Sydney, PDF with some negative arenavirus test results. I know, how random.
For that particular snake?
No,
or is it
for other snakes
snake?
that he has ever tested. 5 boas and I think 15 retics. I know. Okay. I don't know.
Is that relevant? Or is he just trying to say, I test, I'm fine?
I don't know. I really struggle to understand many parts about his behavior. I think he's just trying to say, like, look, I have tested in the past and these were negative. So don't be mean to me. Because he also doesn't say, like, of these 5, are these all the boas?
Point.
Yeah, all the boas that he owns are these. And then apparently he said that the animal that was sold was not produced by him, but was a European import. That's what he said.
And he said that he told them to test their stuff. But he didn't say if he imported it with other stuff, which usually they do. He didn't say if he tested the rest of the group.
Right. A, could he just be making that up? I don't know.
Yes.
B,
totally could.
Did he already sell off part of that group? I don't know. Okay, like the best case scenario for me, for Bob, would be like, okay, everybody, I was a dick. I'm going to now test everything I currently have, find all the positives, humanely euthanize. And if you have bought a snake from me that was from that group, please message me. I'll give you a refund. That would be the best case scenario from Bob, right?
For sure. Like, okay, I imported, air quotes again, I imported these 25 snakes.
Right.
I still have 15 in my possession. I'm going to test those 15. If you or got a snake out of this, I'm going to message you.
Right. And then
you may test your snake.
Or send it back and I'll just...
Or send it back or whatever. And if you're positive, or maybe just in general, here's a refund because I fucked up.
Right. Wouldn't that be like the best case scenario right now?
I'm not going to do that. Right. Yeah.
I think he's scared that, like, if he sends out a positive to Ball Python Lover 42 and they got a boa that looks okay and they put it in their rack with whatever the fuck other species, because they only did a 30-day quarantine because he's been selling them for the last 6 months. He's scared of, like, the blow-on liability of the damage that he may or may not have caused to the rest of the rack. That's my assumption why he hasn't, like, been proactive about it, because that's why he was being weird to Sydney.
So my understanding of the industry and the practices right now is, even if someone sells you a diseased snake, if you did not therefore test your snake and you put that snake into your general pop and your general pop kicks the bucket, you're liable for that, not the person who sent you the sick snake.
That's right.
Which may not make sense in other industries, but that's how this industry handles it. So you can get, if you test and you get a positive, you can fight and piss and moan and 90% of the time get your money back for that one snake. Any other snakes that are affected, that is your bad practices. That is your mistake. That is not the person who sent you the snake's mistake. It sounds shitty, but that's why you should always test your snakes on intake.
Right, but why else would Bob not be trying to, like, get ahead of the current pending tests from the other similar ones?
What you're saying. I'm just saying my understanding of the industry is that he would not be liable. So it's a stupid reason for him to be like, I can't admit to any wrongs.
Right. I just don't understand a lot of things he's been doing. So the reason why MJ is sort of clumped into this section is because they spent a good bit in the middle of their episode talking about this specific situation. Did you get to that part?
This situation?
Yeah.
I did. So I actually finished the whole thing, and I had already listened to that part, and there wasn't more, so I hadn't missed any of the relevant part. They were ranting pretty hardcore. It hurt my feelings a little. I mean, I really like they're no bullshit, and they give you their direct opinion, and that they're real. I don't want them to stop doing that, but that doesn't mean that I'm always going to agree with them. I don't think she should have got PETA involved. I think that comes from her being more of a hobbyist keeper rather than an industry like breeder type person. Her reaction, because she doesn't understand the industry and that we need to protect the industry, is someone that doesn't know that wouldn't know that was bad, because mainstream media, if you have a problem with an animal or animal abuse, those are the people you go through. So I understand where she's coming from. I don't agree with what she did. I think it was wrong to invite PETA into the situation and call attention rather than just fixing it how anybody else in the industry would have just done the normal, like, solve the problem type thing. So I think they were a little harsh, but
Yeah, to me it felt like
also don't
a
want them to
crazy
stop
woman is
speaking.
going to crazy type talk. Like,
Yeah,
and that was
it was
kind of
hard to
fucked
listen to.
up. Yeah, I like both of them too, but also fuck you, because her point is not invalidated by going to PETA, is all I have to say. She still has a valid point. She's not crazy or hysterical. She's trying to do the best she can. That's all. We don't need to go over it too much, 'cause we really just did it last week. But the other points of the
Super in
podcast
depth.
was that I wanted to bring up very quickly. Do you think it's gatekeeping to tell someone that they cannot do a live stream or podcast if they do not get 100 views in the first week of the episode?
Yes,
Yeah. I mean,
it is gatekeeping.
even MJ did not have 100 views on his first, even with relatively big breeders.
So I saw your notes on this, and I didn't catch this when I watched. I mean, I listened to the whole thing, and can you recap for us, because I didn't know what part you were talking about.
It was
When
way
were they-
towards the end, and he was just like complaining about podcasting. They were talking about MJ's numbers, and Chris Eaton had just done a podcast with 3 other podcaster people like 4 weeks ago, and they were just talking about like, these are new podcasts that are good in his opinion. And obviously we have a podcast, so I'm interested in like what
It's relevant. Right,
what
right.
he thinks is a good podcast. Chris Eaton just says whatever he wants to say, but his main point was people should not be doing lives if they cannot accrue 100 views in the live. I'm like, lots of people don't get 100 people actively in their lives right now that are big, but that then go on to
YouTube. You said didn't have a lot in there, and she has like
fucking MJ doesn't have
75,000.
100 most of the time in his lives while it's live.
I wanna say-
it might be like
so I
40
was-
to 60 a
I
lot
would
of the
go
time.
on Mutation Creations podcast live on YouTube.
Right, that might
every
have hit
week. He doesn't do it right now.
140 or whatever on a good day.
Never was it more than 140. It was usually about 110.
Yeah. So
And he's big. Like, he's a big deal.
right. So what I'm saying is Chris Eaton's metric for like who should be doing something would exclude literally everyone. Including him.
Right. That's a anyway.
Because like downloads on iTunes are always bigger than downloads on YouTube or views on YouTube or live views on YouTube.
Correct.
And I think that's not true for everyone. I think Dylan Animals at Home is flipped, and maybe some other podcasts. But for us, for sure, YouTube is not
Nothing.
Yeah, it's
Drop
just
in
like
the bucket.
a little pea pod. So if you were to look at our YouTube views and be like, this podcast has no following,
It sucks.
I mean, it does suck, but that's not the reference for the amount of views. It's really on iTunes. That's all I want to talk about there. We'll never be invited on a Snakes and the Fat Man episode after that.
Never say never.
I like Chris Eaton. All right,
I love
where's
that he's gonna do an
my
ugly dudes episode?
no hot dudes episode? I've been
No,
asking for a hot dudes episode. I don't care about ugly dudes.
He's doing a dudes episode, and he said he tried to find hot dudes, but there are none in the hobby.
He's wrong. I can send you a list. Email me, and I'll let you know who I've selected.
Okay. He will not be doing that, but I will be doing that.
I asked for the fucking hot dudes list when he was on an interview with Chris Ward like a year ago. This is before
he's
the
doing it
like
this year.
well, fucking about time. I don't know if it was my idea or not, but I just know that I've asked
Just
for
totally take credit. Just take credit. It's fine.
it. All right, Elijah was on. The channel is called Samson Riveria, but that's not the name of the dude. It turns out that's his son's name. I don't remember the guy's name. Do you remember the guy's name?
No, but
Whatever.
you sent me a couple of his shows that I've watched now. Now I'm like, I didn't even know who this guy was.
Yeah, I didn't
But the
either.
last 2 weeks I've been watching him.
It's a shame I've been like not paying attention to him because he's had a lot of ball python breeders on, and he has like good short interviews, like 1 hour, where he has one guest highlighted and maybe they show off their snakes or something. So in some ways that's like good because then I can like, I don't know, fart around on my phone and listen to it and be done in an hour and know that it happened. And you're like, okay, got it. Moving on. Elijah was on there. He did a good job. Did you watch that one? I forget. You didn't watch it. I
I
forgot.
watched most of it. It just seemed like repeat
Yeah. He was
content for us because I've seen all his interviews. So someone that doesn't follow Elijah and follow his interviews, it was a good synopsis. It kind of hit on all the things he said in all the different interviews. And then there was a little
Yes.
bit of talk about the Sydney thing and lots of good information about testing. And I mean, I don't feel like I learned anything new. Maybe I missed
No, you
why you
didn't learn
sent it to
anything
me.
new. I sent
Oh,
it to
okay.
you
Yeah.
just so that you were aware that. So he got on that after the Sydney thing because he was arguing in the comments with that guy about something, and then he got on. So that's why that happened.
Oh, okay.
It just made me proof that maybe you should argue it in the comments.
Oh, okay.
With
I mean, like,
Elijah.
I enjoyed
I'm not
it,
sure.
and I was listening to it. I didn't even look at it when I clicked on it because you sent it to me, and I just clicked on it, and then it was like going in my ear while I was cleaning and stuff.
Yeah, I don't
And
know
I'm
if
like,
anybody
oh my gosh, I
needs
think
to
this is
listen to.
Elijah.
Yeah. I just wanted you to know that he got on somewhere else to talk about Nerd, because we're getting ready to talk about Nerd again. Nerd did 2 takedown videos in the last 2 weeks about people who feed live animals to reptiles on YouTube for views. What do you think about feeding live animals to reptiles on YouTube for views?
If you are feeding an appropriate sized meal or appropriate animal to another animal for food, there are some that it's fine. Like there's one that I watched. This is totally my guilty pleasure. Empire State Exotics. And he like does like this fight, like, oh, he's got him by the balls. And I mean, it's kind of funny. But the ones that they're talking about in Nerd, it's like animal cruelty and like sensationalizing, like let's sadistically torture these poor creatures. And I'm not for that. So in general, we just say don't show live feedings because it's a bad rap for the hobby. I think that there was a part in there where, what's his name? The nerd guy, the guy.
Kevin McCurley or
Yes,
Donnie?
Kevin was talking, and he said it very well. He said, like yes, we feed live, yes, and a snake's got to eat. He's like, but we don't focus on the death of the animal. We don't focus on the cruelty to that animal. We feed to keep our snakes healthy and alive and producing, not because we enjoy watching a rodent die. And so these videos that they're showing and the takedowns that they're talking about, I mean, it's absolutely disgusting what they're doing and the situations that they're putting these animals in. And it's not a quick, humane killing. It's not a appropriate meal for the animal in question. It's sensationalized, sick things for views, clickbait, but actual nastiness that you're watching. It's inhumane and it's awful, and I don't think it should be allowed. And it's not good for our industry or our hobby, or because lots of people are watching that.
So you think that the normal live feeding videos are okay though? Like a live rodent
I'm gonna get
to
I'm gonna get shit on for this. It does not bother me. And like I watch them. People feeding their animals, I watch them. If it's
Why
a
do you
normal
watch
situation,
them? You feed snakes
I
all
don't
the time.
know. I don't know. I do, but the ones that they're talking about, it's different. It's a different thing. It's literally for views, and it's like, let's think of this craziest combination. We can put these 2 things in the tank, and they're gonna beat the shit out of each other, and it's gonna be great and bloody.
Yeah. I feel like most people would look at the crazy
watching.
one and be like, that is not appropriate for the continuation of the hobby. I think the middle ground ones that are like a normal sized rodent to a normal whatever, I also think those ones should not be on YouTube or Instagram.
So that's what, as an industry, we're trying to say, don't do that. And I agree with why they're saying that, but I'm not personally bothered by live feeding. But as an industry, we're trying to turn away from that, so we're not putting things out into the ethos that is going to bring negative light. We're trying to be respectful, like this animal is being used to feed this other animal, and we're not going to sensationalize it, and we're not going to watch them die in terror. We're going to throw it in the bin and then check on it later when it's been eaten. And I agree with their reasons for that, but as a person it doesn't bother me to watch a feeding video when it's an appropriate feeding video.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, but I literally don't care. Like, I don't give a shit about live feeding. Like, why would I watch that content? It's so boring. I do that 200 times a fucking week. It's not interesting. I've never seen Empire States. Maybe it's like really funny or something, but
It is so funny.
I just
So funny.
like
You have to watch one
we
now.
don't need the content, so why
We don't need it out
bother
there, and it's doing
pissing
more
people
harm
off?
than good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's all. So, okay, so we've established our positions on the live feeding videos themselves. What do you think about the fact that Nerd is calling out these channels specifically?
It's almost ironic.
Is it the pot calling the kettle black?
It is absolutely the pot calling the kettle black, and it's a little
Obviously
ironic.
for different reasons, but like
But
Nerd
so
has been
many
accused
people
for like
yes,
sensational medical type videos.
especially recently, and so
Yeah.
it's a little on the nose, so to speak, of the pot calling the kettle black. I just thought it was like I didn't disagree with what they were saying. Those channels are disgusting, but it's more like, don't look at me and tell me I'm doing something wrong. Look at these horrible people over here.
Yeah.
They're doing something really gross. It's like when you're doing something bad and so you say someone else is doing something worse. Like that's like totally a 6-year-old explanation. He spit on me, so I punched her in the nose. Like
I must
but
say
she
though,
spit on me
can I say
first.
one credit for Nerd? Donnie is good
Yes.
at editing videos.
He really is. Yeah. for
Yeah,
sure.
he should go do something else. I don't know, something better. Editing like some famous vlogger.
Or be a famous vlogger.
Drone footage or something. He's very good at editing videos. I'm not sure
Yes.
if Nerd is really being benefited that much from chasing views on YouTube. Let me just put it that way. Whatever income they're getting from it, is it worth
It's not. It's
whatever
not.
drama is happening? And obviously,
I think no.
Elijah's interview and issue was with Nerd, and we've been mean to Nerd, and MJ's been mean to Nerd. And I think maybe Nerd needs to take a step back as an institution and be like, okay, do we need to like pretend to be, a big breeder that breeds 20, 30, 40, 50 different species and has all these like plates spinning, but we can't afford to test for Nido in our ball python room or whatever? What if instead they like reduced the number of plates spinning and like became a boutique breeder again?
Got back to their roots and
Yeah.
reevaluated and restructured. Absolutely.
Because I think, fuck me if I'm wrong, but Kevin McCurley actually likes reptiles.
You can see that he has
Crazy.
a lot of passion.
Yes, crazy. The idea of having like a hundreds of animals to thousands of animals collection so that you can like dominate the market with so much wholesale coming in, and you're selling pets and you're selling investment and you're selling retics and you're selling boas and you're selling Sanzania and you're breeding monitors. Maybe we need to let that idea go, because that requires a certain amount of wholesale volume to come into your collection and leave like fast turnover. So they are having the problem of being a boutique breeder on top of the back of a wholesale operation. Does some stuff falling through the
That's
cracks?
how you walked yourself into a Bob Clark situation.
Right. But even worse, they made themselves an Elijah Snyder. Can you imagine making an Elijah Snyder now, 3 years later or whatever? You've made someone who is, if you had just apologized to Elijah, he didn't even ask for a refund, just apologized, like paid for maybe the euthanasia of the animal so he wouldn't have to do it, any of that. No, they didn't do that. They made an Elijah. I know people give Elijah shit for being like on the warpath, but they made it happen. So what if we had a little retrospective moment and we're like, okay, we're not going to be a wholesaler who can't afford to test my snakes. Maybe I won't have a YouTube channel that requires advanced medical procedures on animals without anesthesia. Maybe I'll just focus back on the passion projects and try to get them under control again. Maybe the day of like a big breeder who breeds 20 species is over with like massive wholesale deals and flipping and whatever. Maybe we should all just move on from that. Like that model doesn't work anymore because it's not working. It makes Elijah's. And it makes Sydney's. Yeah.
I think that's it. I think that's a good spot to just.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, yeah. There you go.
I'm not in charge of nerd. I don't necessarily like nerd or not like nerd. I just think the dream of 30 years ago is over. Let's dream about a new future with no bullshit and infectious diseases. Tyler Nolan's YouTube channel was demonetized. Did you ever watch Tyler Nolan?
I did not.
All right. Well, he's like a...
He's the guy that got bit by the venomous snake.
Was he?
No?
He free handles venomous snakes all the time. He might have been bit. I don't know. I don't follow him that closely. I don't really care about venomous snakes.
I don't follow him, but I'm pretty sure he was the guy that got bit. He didn't die.
Right, he's still alive. I watched his live.
But a lot of people were pissed off because he doesn't handle them.
No, he free handles
code. And then he got bit, and it was all over the news, and everybody's like, it's bad for the hobby because he's being a stupid ass. And then he was in the takedown videos.
Yes, he was in the takedown videos, and then he did a response video, even though he was demonetized for another reason.
So his whole channel was demonetized.
Yes, even though he has millions of followers. Millions.
Ooh, burn.
Yeah, he was actually demonetized because he shared video footage with another channel, and they were actually friends, but because they had copies of the same videos, the algorithm perceived that they were the same video and
copyright infringement.
But they were friends, so they were sharing the raw footage with each other because it was like a collab.
Yeah,
isn't that weird? So
really weird,
a million,
all the time.
Yeah, but you can't be sharing the exact same footage because the algorithm is scanning the images to make sure they're not the same. You need to film them from different directions. It's basically
what most people do with a collab.
Yeah, because otherwise
they are both filming.
Right. I was like, this is fucked. This is so fucked. He did a live and talked about going to Facebook video platform. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's going on anymore. I didn't want to necessarily even bring this up, but because Tyler Nolan was in the nerd videos, he reacts to the nerd videos in his live stream. So you can go see the chain of people reacting to each other, one after the other, if you want. YouTube drama. Holy fuck. Moving on. I don't watch Tyler Nolan either. I just thought it was very strange that all of these YouTubers were all going at each other at the same time, while Sydney was going after Bob Clark at the same time. And it just sort of spiraled out of control this week.
A lot of industry drama.
Yeah, I would normally not even talk about it, but it kept compounding. MJ had Dave Levison on his podcast. I wanted to talk about a couple of points. It was a long one. It was a good one. He's funny as usual, but he talked about that he received snakes on consignment and sold them. Have you ever talked to someone who did this before?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. I've heard...
Have you?
There's a local person who did do it, and I've heard of other people who do it. But they used to be more common that people who made a bunch of snakes but couldn't move them all themselves or didn't want to talk to somebody would just send batches of 20 snakes to random smaller breeders without inventory yet and be like, sell this in your local market. Give me a cut off the top.
I've heard of it happening. So I guess I spoke wrongly. I have heard of it. I know Brian Barczyk has talked about how he has friends that breed and they just send him their babies as they hatch.
Right, but I think he's actually buying them from them at a wholesale price.
What's the difference between a wholesale price and a consignment price?
So the person isn't even buying them. They are just taking them and awaiting sale. And then when the sale price happens, they take a percentage and they give the rest of it back to the producer. It's consigning it like you would clothes at a consignment store.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Duh. Sorry. The only reason why it's different is because the person who's taking the consignment does not technically own the animals. They sign a contract with the person, nor do they get to necessarily pick what animals get sent to them. But then they have to move that animal within their local market. I just want to know if you thought that was weird or not.
So I have a friend who's a breeder in California who's really busy and still has a bunch of her hatchlings from last year, not because they're not sellable or not because they're not good, highly desired snakes in the pet or breeding range, But because she is a single mom and works all the time and has like a crazy schedule, so she hasn't gotten around to like selling her snakes. And I don't have like any inventory for the May show. And so I've offered to like, hey, just send me your snakes the Thursday before the show and I'll take your snakes and sell them for you. But we didn't talk like consignment or numbers or anything like that. And so like in that situation I would, because she's testing her stuff and like I know her and I know her animals, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure like in another situation.
Don't you think
if
that's
I'd be willing to
different
do that.
than maybe I'm like under explaining. There's like a cabal of secret old people who get together and don't want to sell their snakes. And so they hand select young breeders in distant markets and pool different genetics and send those to those breeders in like big boxes.
So like multiple big people are sending from multiple
secret
locations.
Cabal of.
That's so weird. Where did you hear about that? Is that the link that you sent with it?
No, Dave Levison just says he was part of it. He doesn't say the details. The deets.
Okay.
I know the deets from private conversation. We can talk about who later.
He knows lots of deets.
I have too many deets sometimes. Okay, but when I heard that this was happening, this started happening after I left the hobby initially, and it maybe has died off. But to me, this strikes me as like insane, pure insanity. Is it pure insanity?
Like you're trying to kill the hobby with disease.
Yes. And so
Let's
not only
all mush everything together and wiggle it around in a box and then send it all across the world.
Yes, and so then the receiving person would have animals produced from multiple collections that were shipped multiple times, sometimes from like a main coordinator, sometimes directly from those people. And so they wouldn't have too much of one kind, like if it was a litter of boas or a retic clutch. You know, they have such large numbers of babies. It'd be hard to sell like 20 of the exact same kind. So they would get 2 sent to each. So it kind of makes sense, but it's such like a disease mite explosion idea. So
it makes brilliant sense when you don't have the perspective of disease.
Right. Especially in animals that produce large numbers of offspring that are relatively similar looking. It makes sense. But I was interested to find out that Dave also did it. And I was like, does this still happen? Please write in. Send me a message on Instagram or Facebook. I'm so curious if people are still like doing the active consignment plan and how y'all are dealing with mites and diseases. If you're dealing with it at all, maybe you're not. And maybe
I feel like if someone was participating in that, they wouldn't be
messaging us
disease conscious.
Dave talked about that, which triggered all that discussion. And then he had a misunderstanding about Arena. He thought Arena was not vertically transmissive. He breeds boas and he's bred them for a long time. So I did make
That's really scary
comment on the YouTube, and that comment was deleted. And I don't know if it was deleted by MJ or deleted because it had a link to the PubMed article for the research paper about vertical transmission in boas, the best one. It was deleted or omitted or something. So I don't know what happened there. I'm not stressed out about it because I think you're not actually supposed to put links in YouTube videos, but maybe not because it looks like a bot is doing it.
You're not allowed to put links. I think YouTube deletes those. I don't think the person does it.
Right, I didn't think so. But so I shouldn't have even put the link, but it's in his like bot spam feed somewhere. So I just wanted to bring it up. That even though Dave has had boas for a long time, he was not correct. Sorry, Dave. That part of his conversation was pretty uncomfortable for me because he's like, well, if boas had a problem with Arena, then every ball python would have already been dead because boas and ball pythons both get taken to shows. Hello? What about all those dead ball pythons? They're calling ring, ring, ring from the afterlife. Like they do die. They are dead. You just didn't see it yet. What about all those
collections that just roll?
Yeah. So that's another one of those like
dead ball pythons in my backyard.
Yeah. It's real fun as usual. And MJ doesn't know better that there is vertical transmission in boas. So he didn't call him on that piece of information at the time of the podcast. And
I feel like he's getting really
close.
He's mentioned disease testing a lot in his recent, and I know he asked people how they feel about disease testing in his interviews most of the time, but I feel like in his interviews and his recent like lives and stuff, I feel like he's been mentioning it more and more, and I think he's going to become a big advocate for disease testing in the future. I think he's like on the cusp of that.
Yeah, I think he is too. I think his problem right now is he only thinks disease is a problem in green tree pythons. He sees that Nidovirus is a problem in green tree pythons. I've seen him test his retics for Nidovirus. He knows Nidovirus gets in ball pythons. Why hasn't he tested his ball pythons yet? Why hasn't he tested his boas for arena? Yeah, he just needs to like turn over a loop that like his whole collection deserves his whole attention in the same way because they're all valuable. Yeah.
Because you can hear it in the way he's speaking and you can hear it in the way he's talking about it, that he's educating himself and he's slowly learning.
He needs to have a real boa breeder on. Wink.
I told you that you should let me message him because he said he wanted to have more female breeders. And
I was born in a garbage bin.
Well, you know, you can't get any better than the trailer trash sitting over here.
Justin Kobilka, in a blog post from 2014, said that 25% of his female ball pythons bred in their second spring or summer. What do you think about that fact? I found it on the internet.
I know. I like. Where did you dig this up? This is a number we have been looking for the last year.
I know.
You and
it's crazy.
Personally.
I found it. It's so weird that like.
We'd love to hear a number. We'd love to hear it quantified.
I wonder if that's still his number. You know,
I'd love to hear the number of AEP.
Yeah, you should just
1 in 4.
Keep a list of questions for Miguel and Justin and Bob that are like separate. If we get 10 questions, we'll send them a message asking if they want to come on. Because
for sure.
Otherwise, Justin is so boring. People are like, "So, how did you get into snakes?" Holy fuck! How many times have we heard that question, Justin?
That's why I said I would love to interview his wife.
She doesn't want to.
Because you're gonna get a completely different perspective.
Yeah, I don't think she wants to talk about anything with snakes.
Ever.
Right. Not even. Jana, what do you think of the bolt? Tell me, please.
The bolt is a fucking spider from the wild. Congratulations. It's one of the oldest morphs in ball python, and it came from the wild. You have a wild-caught spider. I'm glad that it does not show signs of neural problems, but that does not mean it is a different morph.
Hey, everybody at home. I'll have the link in the show notes. It is a animal that was caught from the wild, male, and they had it for a long time, and it looks remarkably like a spider, but he, the current owner, says it is not a spider because it nor any of its current set of F1s wobble. That is the primary.
It's one litter. It's produced 1 litter. It's a male, and it has bred 1 snake and produced 1 litter, and he's had this thing 10 years. It's like, at what point, buddy, do you like let that go? That's just it's not a thing that's happening, and it's not a new morph. It's a spider.
What if it is not a spider and it will never wobble? Or it wobbles the way like a champagne wobbles, where it only wobbles 10% of the time or something. What would you think of that? What if you're wrong? Let me just like posit the opposite.
It is still so spidery that it will not be accepted by the industry, especially because everybody's moving away from spider. So why would you grab something that is spider-esque, even if it's like guaranteed to not be neurological? There's no way to tell if it's a bolt or if it's a spider. It is not worth investing your time and energy and posting it all over while people laugh at you. It is not a worthy pursuit. I'm sorry.
There were a lot of strong comments on the Facebook groups. Everybody at home, if you want to check. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it.
Even if it's not a spider, even if it's its own thing, it's definitely in the spider spot nose combination based on the head pattern. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be in that same family.
I would like a calendar that doesn't wobble. If I could just like have that. I could be guaranteed a calendar that never has a problem. I think calendars are like the best looking thing.
But how do you prove it is a bolt and not a calendar? And it wouldn't be a calendar. It would be a
Boulder.
boulder.
It works. It works. Sign me up for the first one. You would have to do it the same way you do like hits. You would have to trust the seller, and everyone would have to trust each other. Can we trust each other? I don't know.
No.
Yeah,
No,
to me, if it ever is going to work, it has to be literally the exact same price as the spider morph, and then come with paperwork. Dr. Seidel will solve this if she gets a shed of both, because she can literally tell us that they are exactly the same or they are not the same very quickly. So that's what I propose they do. If they want any chance in hell of anybody paying anything for it, send it off to the Ball Python Genetics Project. I'm willing to say that it could be different. It just doesn't matter.
I love his enthusiasm. I love that he wants to work a project, but I just wish that he would put that enthusiasm and energy into not something of that allele.
How many Dinkers do I have, Jana?
50,000, and that's great, and I love that, and I think you should.
I know,
do
but
that.
some people make decisions based on like emotion and not on logic. I definitely took the position that I do not hold, which is arguing for the bold guy. But here we are having a conversation. It's like, I don't think he should bother doing it, but I'm arguing that he can.
Devil's advocate.
Yeah, he can do it. Because fuck it.
He's always gonna argue it for the little guy, just for food for thought.
No, I just need to argue against your position so we have something to talk about. Otherwise, if I'm like, yes, Jana, you're perfectly correct every time. What I want him to do, like, as soon as possible, is get a spider shed, send it to Dr. Seidel, be like, please put this one as top priority. And then we would know, like, in a year. He doesn't have to breed anything else. He can just stop what he's doing and do that.
So what I see happening is he's going to get shredded.
I mean,
He's not going to send off sheds. He's going to get demoralized. He's going to leave the ball python community, and that little spark within him that just is wanting to explore the art of ball python breeding is going to be pissed on until it goes out. And instead, he could have picked something else to dinker with and not be shit on, and that spark could grow something beautiful within. Did you see his
other dinker?
No, I didn't.
The Terminator. There's another link. It's okay. We can talk about that next week.
I didn't get that far.
Yeah.
That's my homework, guys.
We'll talk about the Terminator next week. It's the same guys, and he has another dinker, which does not look like a spider. Remember the Reptiles Unplugged podcast? With Joel from State 48 and what's his name from Beach Bum Exotics. They've been gone for like a year, and then they came back for like like, we're back, and then they were gone for 4 weeks. So are they back?
No.
Okay.
That does not count as back. That counts as we wanted to be back and had great intentions, and it just didn't happen.
So they're interesting because they're a situation where I think like the burden of lining up interviews and then getting two people's schedules and an interview to be on a live streamable time to all match up overwhelmed them. And
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, so I was feeling like podcaster sympathy here. And so I was like, that's why I was interested. I was like, ooh. And so they were talking about like, if we come back, it's going to be like every 2 or 3 weeks. And it'll be like sort of an impromptu live at a time that's kind of random. And it's mostly going to be just the two of us because it's really hard scheduling a third person. And sometimes we'll have guests, but it's mostly going to be like shoot the shit live on YouTube. And so I felt...
Why do they have to do it live?
Because
I'm glad that we don't put that burden on ourselves.
Well, one day, I imagine we could keep doing the format like this, but one day we'll be like, we are not doing evergreen topics anymore, basically.
We have evolved past the need
to talk about something. We'll just be like
nothing if we'll enjoy it.
Or maybe we'll just enjoy it. I don't know. Like maybe we're just like, we don't care anymore. So we'll just, and at that point, I think you could choose to do it live. You're like, I refined my audience. We're just going to get on and talk about whatever and maybe have random people. Sort of like the Samson Riveria channel. he's basically just like shooting the shit for an hour with a random dude or dudette and showing off snakes. Will we ever get there? I feel like there's always a trajectory where you're like, have you said enough? Have you talked enough yet? And then you get there.
To
and
be
then,
able to do that.
And then what do you do then?
Well, hopefully at that point we have like listener feedbacks and listener, like that one episode where we had people talking to us and we got to talk about it. That was pretty fun. I don't know. I look forward to that.
Right. But that could be on live because we wouldn't be, I don't know. We would be interacting with our live chat mostly.
Yeah.
And then like doing the feedback and going over the news of the week. And so it'd be much more conducive to a live instead of like going off of a script like what we do for our Evergreen now, which would be less good for a live. So I can see a future where we would switch to doing live streams on YouTube and then just porting it over to the podcast and not editing it anymore because we're so refined and quick-witted and never make any mistakes. Never blaspheme
anything.
Even one time.
Totally raw, uncut. Never any
No one has ever
stuttering.
said like even one time.
Never.
Or
that's never something that happens. Or Jana doesn't say something randomly stupid that's just to cut out 50 of every episode. God.
I said just that arena virus has DNA instead of RNA, and arena virus does not have DNA because it's an RNA based virus. And I knew it was wrong when I was editing it. I was like, do I record myself saying the right word again and then splice it in? And then I didn't. So this is a correction. Arena virus doesn't have any DNA. It only has RNA. Sorry, guys.
Life of a ball python keeper. I totally have a tooth in my finger.
Dig it out, girl.
Well, I missed it. It was like a week ago, and now it's all like puffy and pissed.
Now you gotta get it. All right, we're in collection updates. That was the news. It was way too much news. I'm never doing that again. But we've covered most of.
The news has been crazy.
Crazy, and the Discord is doing great. It's popping. If you want to invite to Discord, reach out. We'll give you an invite. The Discord is blowing up. If you want to keep popping
with Jana, definitely Jana is not in the Discord. I mean, I'm there. I'm there in solidarity.
Popping.
I'm never there. Is it popping?
Yeah, Tracy put an invite on a World of Ball Pythons post from Claymore Morphs, I think is his business name, where he was talking about his negative crypto and Boyd panel from Ral on a snake bought from Steve's Morphs, a Desert Ghost, Yellow Belly, Pastel, something or other.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't heard anybody testing from him yet, so that's cool.
It is cool to know that, and it's cool that Claymore tests, and it's cool that Claymore joined the Discord. So there have been a surge of ball python keepers joining the Discord from that post. My Japanese rat snakes hatched, and there was albinos in there, Jana. Isn't that crazy?
How many?
So there were 9 eggs laid, 4 stillborns this year, which is crazy. And so we had 5 babies.
4 stillborns?
Yeah, they were dead when cut. Yes.
Ah, that sucks. I'm sorry.
Yes, last year there was 3 stillborns, so I don't know what
Is it a bad pair?
I don't know. I actually think I'm keeping them too wet, the eggs. That's my current theory. Because they get really, really big. Corn snakes' eggs kind of double in size when they absorb water. I feel like these are like just too big. So next year I think I'm going to float them on an egg crate and not have any substrate touching them, but still have like 100% humidity with the container. Last year I had them on cocoa with some sphagnum moss on top and like a lid that closed pretty tight. 3 of them died. The ones that were closest to the substrate. This year, the ones that died, some of them were touching the substrate and some of them were high up, so it was like random. So it could still be a bad pairing. I don't know, but maybe they're just a little bit more sensitive to moisture because they were almost full term. Maybe they were just too wet to cut well and then they drowned. Because I pipped them manually after the first one had pipped for maybe 36 hours or something. So maybe I waited too long to pip them and they drowned.
I would next year, do the egg crate and then I would cut them all at first pip.
See, I don't do that for colubrids. Colubrids have such a wide pipping. Like I didn't pip manually any of the corn snakes and they pipped 4 or 5 days apart. naturally with no deaths.
But
So I don't
if
know.
you're having deaths and you've had deaths 2 years in a row, I'm not saying slice the whole top off. I'm saying,
Well, I don't know if they're drowning or they're already dead because they, whatever. When I pipped them, they were already dead. They shouldn't have died if they'd been 36 hours from the first pip. They were already dead at that
fully
point.
formed.
Well, they hadn't finished absorbing their yolk. They looked like, babies. When you like cut a ball python baby at day 55, there's like a big old fucking yolk in there, right?
Yeah.
But it's still a fully formed baby. They look like that, where like a third of the egg is still yolk, but the baby's fully colored. So that is a baby that was already dead, like probably 3 or 4 days before that.
So I missed it. What?
It doesn't matter.
How many albinos did you get?
We got 2 albinos and 3 normals, which is...
What? One of your normals is like crazy patterned. You're keeping that one, right?
There's actually that crazy one, and there's one that's almost solid. Like the pattern has been distorted so much, it's like mushed out.
That's cool.
I don't know what any of this means. They didn't look like this last year. Same pairing. So I'm wondering if like the pattern anomalies are because...
Oh, like an incubation error.
An incubation error? Yeah.
That's also not going to get you albinos, though.
Right. So if the situation is actually she did parthenogenesis on herself, and colubrids, normally that means all males, but they're usually all dead in colubrids. Like they are born dead. Parthenogens.
Have you checked? Are they all male?
You can't pop Japanese rat snakes, fun fact. So I would have to probe them. So I haven't done that yet.
They're so little and wiggly. How do you probe?
Very carefully. It's much actually easier to pop corn snakes than Japanese rat snakes. Don't ask me why you can't actually pop them, but you can.
Like, I still haven't sexed my garters because they're...
I mean, yeah. Almost...
Well, I'll figure it out when they're big.
There's not like a window of time where you can pop them, too. Like, I can't pop a corn snake that's 6 months old, either. So you can only pop a corn snake for a couple months, and then they get too strong, and you have to probe. And then in Jap rats, I can never pop any age class successfully, no matter what you do. So you have to probe them. So I definitely probed mine last year, but I didn't probe them until, I don't know, 2 months in, like whenever they were established. So if they're all males, then I would be suspicious of parthenogenesis, and that's what's caused albinism.
But they're alive, so that's confusing too.
They are also alive. So I don't actually think it's parthenogenesis. I think it just like missed the odds like a motherfucker last year. Is the current theory. Because there was only 6 babies that I saw. Because 2 of them died in the egg and I just threw them away. And then one of them was kinked. And then I called it and it was a normal. And so the 5 remaining were normals. And this year we had 9 eggs and I got to physically view all of them. 3 of which were albino. So that's it's more than 25%, but it's close. If she had parthenogen herself, it'd be more like 50% would be albino. And they'd be dead. So...
I don't know. My money's on Partheno. Especially since they've got such... Like, that one is crazy, the pattern.
Mm-hmm. My money...
But you said they'd be dead, so I don't know what to say about that.
I didn't see...
Cool.
I read all of the papers on colubrids, and most of the colubrids that do parthenogenesis are the live-bearing ones, the ovoviviparous ones. So, nature scenes, garter snakes and water snakes, stuff like that. Stuff that has live birth. They're almost the only colubrid that does that. I don't even know if there's a record of... I have to like double check, but I read a couple papers, didn't see much, and they were always dead and always male in colubrids. We'll see. Report back. I do have an article linked in the collection updates, which is a paper from Japan. It used to be people thought that, or I have said that, the albino in Japanese rat snakes was from the Iwakuni temple white snakes, but this paper decided that the hobby albino is different than the Iwakuni white snake albino, the like holy snake that lives at a shrine on the mainland. And it also says that the hobby Kunashir Island snakes are the originating population for the albino. So not only is it like genetically different, they are claiming in this paper that the albino was not a mainland morph origin anyway. It was always a Kunashir all the time. There's no point there. I always just thought like albino stock was not locality and the Kunashir blues were a locality, but it turns out they were always the same all the time. And now I have albinos.
And now you have albinos. So you don't know if you're keeping yet. You're waiting to see if they're all male.
Yeah, if they're all male, then they'd have to go as like pet only because they probably won't live normal lifespans because of just too much homozygosity. But they look too good. The physical examples.
They look awesome. They look fantastic.
The physical examples of parthenogenesis and colubrids that were shown in the paper had their brains outside of their skull case and like gross deformities. You know, they totally could not form. They were born, but they didn't stay that way. These are totally normal looking animals.
Totally healthy, normal looking animals. They're beautiful.
Yeah. So I do not think that they are parthenogens. I just was surprised as balls by the albinism and the pattern mutation. Yeah, it is fun. Because then the Cinder corn snake clutch fucked me over, and I had zero surprises once again.
Why? How did it fuck you over?
There's just no surprises. Everybody's like, "Oh, you'll get so many surprises with corn snake breeding." No, I ain't had a single surprise yet. Where's my surprises at, Jana?
Oh, because like most of the time they're hidden hets for hidden things.
Yeah, almost every mutation in corn snakes is recessive. So you might buy something as visual 2 genes, but it's actually het for 2 other. But you don't know what those are. It's just a surprise. You know, if you've been breeding something with that many recessives for 50 years, it's just bound to happen. But I just haven't hit me yet. Just a little disappointed.
It's like, you know, if hypo or albino pops out in a clutch with ball pythons, nobody thinks twice about it.
Right. But it's almost like worse than that. Like everything is a hypo albino now. Is het for that, and then maybe 10 other things. So they're all of them hatched, all of them look great. I was just like, dang.
Collection update. My first clutch, day 55, I cut, which we knew this in advance. So it's my Dinker female, my African import Dinker, to my JKR pied, who is pastel inchy yellow belly pied, possible Leo. It does not look like there's any Leo, so I don't think he's going to prove out Leo. But there's a lot of genes in there. The babies do look pretty funky. I'm excited to see them out of the egg to see if there's any funkiness. But either way, I wanted to be able to keep back some females.
Why did you feed such a complicated male to a Dinker?
Well, because she got put to my banana pied last season, but he was a dudsy. And so that was the only other pied I had. And I didn't know if it was going to be like a retained sperm situation because it was just like a continuation breeding. And so I was kind of locked into the pied thing.
Was it a continuation breeding? If he literally has no good sperm, like, I mean, it's too late now, but I probably would have switched him to something else.
Anyway, yeah. I don't know what I'll do with her next season. Something fun and less
clown pied.
The clown pied, probably. That's a good call. I'm excited to see what the babies look like. A couple of them look pretty funky, but it's not going to be anything decisive of, oh yeah, there's something else going on here. I don't think, because there's just too many genes, too much randomness between the genes.
Are you going to keep a male back to breed to the mom?
Who knows? We'll see. Probably. I'm really hoping for a pastel inchy yellow belly pied female. So. All
right. I'm sure you got that. There looked like
a couple
as
of
long
them.
As you didn't get a whole sausage fest, you probably hit one.
Yeah, no, it looked like a clutch. I'm excited. Unfortunately, my Nidovirus clutch from my Nidovirus pairing, they all went bad, and they were all hard-boiled eggs. She did go 60 days before she laid instead of 30.
It makes me wonder how many Nido-positive females go in other collections. I'm sure some of them do, but like...
So the one that died of Nidovirus last season, I believe that she did not succumb to the Nidovirus until after she laid and her immune system was depressed, even though she had been exposed to it. I don't think that it didn't attack her until after she laid, whereas I was breeding them and she had a positive result before she ovulated, if that makes sense. So like she was already sick. She wasn't sick, like active symptoms, but she was already diagnosed Nidovirus. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so she had been infected for longer with maybe a higher burden of viral particles for longer before she also then went under the stress of breeding. Yeah, just like, I was thinking about it. I was like, God, that wasn't worth it, was it? Like, you didn't know it wasn't worth it, but you went through all that.
Do not regret
Trying?
trying.
Okay.
He was my favorite snake. It'd be really cool to have gotten a baby. One tried. One was formed and very little, and it was a little baby freckle. It was like a pastel spider type thing. It didn't make it past like little noodle worm stage.
Poor guy.
And then all the rest were just hard-boiled eggs. So yeah, I mean, I don't regret it.
Would you do
It
that
is what it
again?
is. If I had a Nido pair now, no.
What
I
if
would
they were
immediately euthanize it.
expensive?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have to approach that situation as it happened.
Mm-hmm. It's hard.
If it was
It's hard because we
a
don't have
bumblebee,
very many
if it was a bumblebee
long-term...
and
Right.
a normal, I would definitely just euthanize because that's
Oh,
what the
yeah.
pairing was, is
Yeah.
bumblebee to normal. There's no reason other than sentimental value. It's a bummer. It didn't work out. I tried. It's interesting for sure that one, like I said, that I had a Nido positive die last year and her clutch all hatched out and we're fine.
It is interesting. I don't know what it even means. I would love to find somebody, even if they wanted to do it anonymously, just to be like, yes, there's Nido all up in my ball python collection, but because I haven't moved them or done anything weird to them, they breed, and what percent die a year? And like, I'd know they're positive, and the babies, like, if someone could like anonymously reveal the information.
I had people message me about my pairing asking if it was successful because they had
Some positives they were trying to breed.
some positives, but that they had no choice but to breed because they're hoping to get some of their money back because they were like higher end stuff. But my story is not going to make them feel better about that.
Yeah, no. I mean, we obviously have evidence that it did work and is fine in green tree pythons. And obviously a lot of ball pythons are sick. I just don't know what the real percentages of ball pythons that are positive,
It's gotta be-
but whose immune
gotta
systems
be
are doing pretty good.
working. Yeah, no, it's got to be working because there's a lot of snakes that lay and then keel over, like my other experience.
No, I mean
'Cause,
ball
like-
pythons that lay but don't keel over. Like get a
Oh,
little
I
seasonal
don't know.
rest. Like how many are so good at dealing with it that they just keep going? Like you
And keep reading.
yeah, that's what I mean. Not just one
Interesting.
clutch, but like I don't know. That's why I was like, somebody send me an anonymous letter from John Smith to Pocahontas. This is how many ball pythons I have. This is the percent that have tested positive, and how many roll per year, and how many like keep trucking even though they're positive. That's what I want to know. Because there's the fucking ball python Nidovirus police are out. They are out in force as usual, being like, it's complicated. Sometimes they don't all die. Yeah, of course, we get it. The evidence for a sustaining functional species just isn't there either. We're like, for the asymptomatic positives that can withstand breeding year in and year out, if those exist, where are they? And who's breeding them? Come on, John Smith.
It would be fascinating to
Send
know.
it to me from an anonymous Gmail account. I'll never know who you are. I know you're out there.
Be watching your inbox for Pocahontas.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I could think about with yours. I wasn't sure. I'm still waiting on eggs. I don't even have eggs. But I have...
You don't have any ball python eggs?
No. How many ball python eggs do you have?
I have 5 clutches.
Holy mackerel.
One I just cut. One I threw in the trash can. Then 3 more cooking. And then I have 2 that are due that are both past 30 days.
Good job.
And I don't think my other king snake is gravid. She ate after she shed, so... And it's been 14 days and she hasn't been hanging out in her lay box or anything.
All right, keep pairing her if you want, or don't. It's
I'm
fine.
gonna pair both of them again
Okay.
for funsies.
Yeah, I have 7 clutches not hatched, 2 clutches hatched, and hognose eggs being laid now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's exciting. Are you excited?
I don't know. Well, they eat their eggs sometimes. So I keep like sneaking in there and like taking an egg and running away with it and putting it in here. Did you see that picture on the hognose group? That was a female hog eating her super Arctic Xanthic male dinner. She killed.
No.
Yeah, they kill their males a non-zero number of times and eat them. There's a picture on Facebook today, and everyone's like,
Isn't that like a multiple $1,000
yes,
snake?
It sure was. And now it's a multiple $1,000 poop when it comes out the other end. Can you imagine?
Are you supposed to like watch them carefully?
No. Yes. A little bit.
No.
You're supposed to. You can, but they don't. They do the stupid crap where they like, play with each other and fart around. And I wasn't watching mine that closely. I would come and get them out in a couple hours, but she could have eaten them at any time, and I wouldn't have noticed. They take a long time to lock up. They're not like corns. They like spaz out about it.
Did they eat them alive, or did she like coil it and kill it?
Yeah, they don't constrict. She ate them alive. So it suffocates.
Can you like get him back out?
Yeah, maybe if you're doing it fast. Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say because that'd be my first instinct is to like try to get it out.
Right, but she, I think, had killed him in the picture. Crazy. Watch your hog-nosed snakes, boys and girls.
That one hurts a little.
It hurts so bad.
And you're like, well, hopefully they locked, right?
I know, Jesus.
Hopefully they locked first.
Hognose have a tendency to throw higher slug percents the first year. I've pulled 3 little sluggies too. So I have 2 eggs sluggies, but she's still full of something. So I'm not going to have a huge clutch, but I'm assuming she'll double clutch because they very rarely don't double clutch. And I'll be happy with any number of hoggies. That would be great. You know that female I was complaining about by text? The het clown last update that I was like, she's not eating. There's no way she's going to go. She's going to reabsorb.
You went?
Well, she hasn't ovulated yet, but off of not eating, she went from 17 to 32 in a month. So that's like a normal, I'm getting ready to go trajectory, to add 10-ish in a month, 10 millimeters.
Yeah, see, you had said, if they're not already going at this point in the season, then they're probably not going to go. And I don't think that's accurate. I don't know. I'm going to do ultrasound.
Well, she was going. She was at 17.
But you had said you didn't think she was going to go.
No, I thought she was going to reabsorb.
Do you count that as going if you reabsorb? We're tired as fuck.
Yeah.
Get off.
Let me just clear up this last point and then we'll finish this thing. All right, so a female that reabsorbed tried to go, but then decided she didn't have enough energy to do it. Or she didn't like her sperm. Or whatever that she got.
I don't consider that going.
Yeah, I do. She tried to go, but something else stopped her. But she wanted to do it. She was trying.
Okay.
So all the females that I have that are still chilling around baseline size, which is 10, 11, 12, 9, that haven't started to do 13, 14, 15, are not going to go anytime soon to me. But the ones that are doing the like creep, or they're going 13 and then the next month 17.
Yeah.
And then the next month 19 will be like, now I'm going to go. And they'll be like, they'll add 10 in a month. Or they'll go 15 to 25, 25 to 35. So like when they decide to go, it's 10 millimeters for like 2 months. And then they ovulate. Right. But the creeping time could be 2 months, could be 3 months, could be 1 month, where they're like creeping through the teens. And they're all using stored fat from like last fall. Like 90% of them are off food, but they're like deciding what they want to do with that food right now.
Right.
In my opinion, or what I've observed. But what I was saying is the 20 animals that are still just chilling in the 10, they're not acting like they're going to go.
To the 2-year-olds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all. Everyone else who has put on some sort of size beyond is trying to go. Will they go the distance? I don't know. Like I have 18 millimeter follicles in the Xanthic, but she's fucking not eating either. So she's like stalled at 18. So either she's going to reabsorb them because she can't decide to eat, or, she might fail to go the distance. It's coming. All right. I think we're done, Jana. We did a great podcast. Final thoughts. Anything? No. Peace out, bitches. Bye.
Bye.
Having a podcast is 100% in like an exercise in like maximum hubris, and I'm like fully aware at all times that I am a douchebag. But I will guarantee you there is no podcast on that Morph Market podcast list that is like this one. For good or bad.
For sure.
For good or bad. So totally. We are filling a niche that we didn't even know existed until now.
We didn't know it was needed. Neither did anyone else.
Right.